Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. In this analysis and work through, we're going to go through a student who worked with me recently in my travels. He's a fairly new golfer, only playing for about a year and a half. And we're only able to spend an hour together, which is a pretty short time. So normally in these sessions, I am trying to make a fairly significant impact and make sure that the student has some really solid takeaways at the end of the session and really understands, at least from my perspective, the 2 or 3 key areas that they need to work on. During the analysis phase, I'm really big on giving them some context on what they're doing well. Sometimes I'll even rate their setup position, give them a rating out of 10, rate how they're moving the club to the top, give that a rating out of 10, and then kind of rate their move through impact. And overall, I didn't mind his setup position here. I thought he did some nice things, a little tension perhaps with the arms, and there's a couple of other small adjustments that we spoke about. But overall, I gave him an okay mark for his setup. And I gave him a decent mark as well for the way that he moved through the ball. So I'm just going to scroll him through. He's turning through the ball fairly well with his chest, not bad with his lower body. And I like the fact that at least he's moving through into some sort of balanced finish, not ideal, but certainly workable at his level. So the main thing that I really wanted to emphasize with him was his backswing position, and I gave him fairly low marks for that. So I gave him like about a 3 or 4 out of 10, and for his move through the ball relative to where he went back, I thought he did a decent job, but certainly long term would require work. So a couple of references that I gave him after his setup, and we'll see some of the work through in a moment, was where he's moving his body and where he's moving the club. So the reference that I'll use is just a line drawn from the ball straight up. And the other one that I wanted to draw as well was the trajectory of his left shoulder. So I basically did a line from his left shoulder, let's say down to about the button on his shirt. And my goal is to get him to understand how the left shoulder should be moving down, or the tip of the left shoulder should be moving down towards that point. The other point that we spoke about as well was his arm position. So if we just swing him to the top, relative to his shoulders turning very flat here, has a very low arm position. So I'm always curious in this situation, do we work the body first and trying to get him to understand how to get some more depth to his turn, so more downward or steep look to his hips and shoulders, or do we get a sense of the arms not traveling, I should say the club not traveling too far inside and the kind of arms not rolling the club too far inside? And in this particular case, I went with the body first, and then we kind of did some work with the arms as we went along. But certainly you can see here, again, if I draw a line about where I'd like to see him setting up, we could see that his club tends to roll inside and open, and essentially getting into a very low position here. If we look at, I'll just come down into impact here. So if we take a look here on the left screen, again, I've drawn this red line at the tip of his shoulder, diagonally kind of down towards the buttons on his shirt. And this is just a reference for him to understand the trajectory that I'd like to see his left shoulder working on. If I also circle his head, just to give a reference for any up and down or sideways movement as well. My preference is I don't like to see the head translating too much one way or the other. And again, this just sets a guideline for him to understand that. So as we move back, we'll see the left shoulder really working level and across. And that starts to translate his head a long way to the right. Gets to about this point, and really there's no further movement, and then he tends to go into more of a lifting motion. And we really see that because of the lack of change in knee flex and the fact that his hips and his shoulders are working on such a level position. So he does start with a little bit of forward bend of his hips and his upper body, but really by the time that he gets through the midpoint of his backswing here, he's already started to lose that position, with his arms also sort of pulling him up and around. So if we just jump into his TrackMan numbers here, we can see on the screen that, on average, his club path was about -1. We see his angle of attack here is 0. On this particular swing, he actually hit up 1, and really just not optimizing his potential distance. And we could see there the angle of attack's just way off. So those were the main things that I explained to him. I wanted him to understand that he was launching the ball a little bit too high. Due to his backswing, his impact was producing a very weak contact, and he was going to have a very hard time as he moves to the golf course, especially in certain situations like downhill lies and maybe in light rough. So that's certainly an area that we spoke about, and how he needed to understand how to move his body in a certain way, and also his right arm position in a certain way that was going to create a steeper move into the ball. I didn't get too technical with him. Again, the main thing I wanted him to understand was the trajectory of his left shoulder and how his knees should be changing flex in the backswing to allow his hips to turn on a more tilted angle. So we can certainly see here that his hip line and his shoulder line are almost just straight up and down like he was going to hit a baseball. And there's only really one way you can get to the ball from there, and that is to kind of lurch forward with the upper body, often throw the arms out over the top. Now, because he's got his arms pretty low, he kind of managed it pretty well, but still not really functional as far as his ability to hit down enough on the ball and really strike it solid enough. So what's going to proceed is just some work through videos during the lesson, some of the ways that I explained how to change his body motion, how to change his knee flex, how to work his left shoulder more down, and also some positioning work or arm swing shape work that he can go away and practice in the future. Hold the club, so we have almost all the grip pointing out this way, and I'm going to come up against the wall like this, touch my head to the wall, and when I go back, you can stand here to be able to see here. When I go back, I have to move my shoulder down so the grip doesn't touch the wall. If I do the same as you hit the wall. So this is the feeling that we want for the shoulder, this way. And if you look at my legs as well, my right hip goes back, my left knee goes forward. Again, your backswing would have done more like that. Just touching the wall, perfect. So what we're looking for here is hold it a little bit more across like this. Yep. Okay, head touching. Feel different there? Yeah. This shoulder's going much lower. Very good. Yeah, starts to look quite different there. The lower body's okay there? It's pretty good. Is a different feeling here?
Yeah.
So we would call this, in this position here, the shoulders are working on a steeper, they're on a steeper angle, whereas before yours is on too flat an angle. Yeah. So this should feel very, very different for you.
Yeah. Very different, yeah.
Okay. And this is what we want to feel when we're hitting a shot. Yeah. So if I take the club here, and I did nothing else, just going to feel that position. What I'm trying to get my shoulder to do is move more down there. Yep. If you could imagine, if I had a point here, I'll do this with you in a moment. If I was holding something in the middle of my chest, I want this to move to here. You see that? Okay, well, yours would have gone over here too much. So we're going to practice that without hitting, and then we'll hit some shots. This shoulder point here, and I made a spot there. This has to go to here, or same feeling as we just worked on. Yeah, very good. Stop there. Very good. And again. Good. Just a small backswing though, just to there. Very good. So right to there. Stop there. Swing through. Excellent. That's nice. Shoulder down. Swing through. This time when we do it, take your setup for me. Yep. We're going to start off and we're going to move our weight about 60-40. So 60% left, 40% right. Open up the toe a little bit. Now the more you open up the toe, that will make it easier for your body. Oh, okay. Because you'll have a bit more freedom to move. If they're closed in, actually it will make it a little bit more stressful on your body. So I'm always looking for some foot flare or toes a little bit open. Yeah. The lower that you can feel the shoulder, the more ground that you'll hit. Oh. That's good for you because you tend to hit too high above the ground. Yeah. Yep. It's kind of moving more like this. Yeah. A bit less like this. Yeah. Yep. So with you, I mean, before I mentioned that you tend to be too shallow into the ball. Yeah, you're not hitting down enough into the shots, and that's really for two reasons. The one would be the shoulder is going too flat, and the other one as well is the arm's going too flat. So when you said, oh, my arm feels more free, when you free the arm, that will actually help you to be a little bit steeper into the ball. Yeah. So that's very important for you. We're trying to give it some freedom for sure. Yeah, so we're kind of working on two areas here, the shoulder feeling, and we could say the arm feeling as well. I want you to do this for me. Feel what you've been feeling with your body, your knees, so your hips and your left shoulder. And so do that now. Good. And you're going to feel this with your arms. Yeah, more freeing. Yeah. Very good. So as you're doing that, very good. Hold there, hold there. Good, more, yeah, more that way there. That's it. Good. And again. Very good. And now show me that with a club. Same feeling. As best you can, lower body, left shoulder, right arm free. Good. Yep. Good. Yep. Look at that. Very nice. Left knee forward, right knee back, free right arm.